writing out a post where I'm kind of, oh, perfect.
Awesome. So I'd like to welcome everyone. My name is Nancy McLaren Kennedy, and I'm a peer specialist mental health worker at Women's Mental Health at the Royal. So welcome to our Facebook Live presentation on the importance of gut health with Gendron. This Facebook Live is presented as part of the collaboration between the Ottawa Birth and Wellness Centre and Women's Mental Health at the Royal. Tay is a holistic nutritionalist and yoga teacher who specializes in natural anxiety management with a focus on gut and hormonal health. Taylor is also a yoga and meditation volunteer on the Mood and Crisis Unit at the Royal Ottawa Mental Health Centre. I encourage you to check out Tay's website, which is full of information and resources, including her 5-day moving meditation. So it's very nice to see you, Tay, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, both the Ottawa Birth and Wellness Center and Nancy. Thank you so much for reaching out and asking me to do this. I'm very grateful to be part of this series and just to have the opportunity to do what I love, which is educating people on the importance of proper physical and mental health through nutrition and lifestyle. As Nancy mentioned, I am a holistic nutritionist. I studied here in Ottawa at the Institute of Holistic Nutrition, and pretty much everything comes down to gut health. Like almost any ailment that you have, can be traced back to gut health, and that's something I learned quite quickly. So my passion is gut health and hormone imbalances as well. Actually, I'm going to share my screen because I have a few. There we go. I have a few slides. I'm very visual, so it helps me to have some slides. Amazing. Hopefully it's not cut off by the little thing, but I'm also going to pause after every slide in case there are some questions, and I can answer those questions then. I can answer them at the end, or if you're catching this on the replay, you can email me your questions and I'll let you know how to do that. So this is an overview of what we're going to talk about for the next maybe 45 minutes to an hour, depending on questions. So first of all, what is gut health? And it's not just your stomach, and it's not just your large intestine, which is pretty much what everybody thinks. We're going to talk about the gut-fertility connection, how gut health affects the baby, what damages the gut health, and of course, how to support proper gut health during and after pregnancy. So I'm going to give you some simple and practical tips that you can start applying today to keep your gut health in check, to support a healthy pregnancy and also a healthy postpartum and just optimal health in general for your body. So let me see. Okay. What is gut health? So a lot of people think that gut health is just your stomach or maybe your large intestine, but it's actually your entire digestive tract. So it starts with the salivary glands, it's the esophagus, the stomach, the small, large intestine, all the way down to the anus. And it's also the accessory organs as well. So your liver, your pancreas, and your gallbladder. All this is super, super important. So when I talk about gut health and I say, how important gut health is, not only with mental health, but pregnancy as well, I'm not just talking about your stomach or your large intestine. I'm talking about the entire digestive system and how that needs to be in tip-top shape. We need all of that to be running and functioning for optimal health, optimal pregnancy. The gut is actually filled with trillions of species of bacteria that not only help us process and absorb food and nutrients, but they also help our bodies maintain what's called homeostasis, which is just balance and overall well-being. So these trillions of bacteria, they come together to form something called the microbiome, which you might have heard of. And the large focus of these bacteria are in the large intestine, but they're also in the stomach and the small intestine as well. And it's bacteria, fungi, a bunch of other stuff that play a really special role. It's a really important role in keeping the body healthy. But what's really cool is that the number of bacteria in your body actually outnumber the number of human cells you have. So we are more bacteria than we are human. which is kind of cool. And so it's very important that we keep these bacteria happy as well. And we're going to talk about that. So most of these bacteria are beneficial, but then there are some non-beneficial ones, the bad guys, let's say, which contribute to disease development. But in general, the healthier your microbiome diversity is, so the diversity of all this bacteria, the healthier you will be, the healthier the baby will be, the healthier your mental health, all that good stuff. So what kind of gut health, what kind of role does that play? Well, it plays a massive role in mental health, so anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, and bipolar, which is what I specialize in, as Nancy mentioned. It also plays a huge role in immune function, just your general mood, so not even just a mental illness, or just your general mood, your general mental health. Cognitive function is a big one. Digestion, huge. Metabolism. So metabolism is your energy. It's also, a lot of people think, oh, metabolism is what helps me lose weight. Yes, absolutely. But it's also just your energy. It's kind of what keeps you going. Sleep. And then of course, pregnancy. So we have something called the gut-brain axis, and you're probably familiar with the nervous system and its divisions, especially I'm sure you've heard of the sympathetic nervous system, so that fight or flight response, versus the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest. But what a lot of people don't know about is another branch of your nervous system called the enteric nervous system, and this is quite literally found in your gut. It's 70% of your immune system is in your gut. You also have an entire nervous system in your gut, which is one of the many reasons gut health is so important. And the enteric nervous system is made up of two thin layers of hundreds of millions of nerve cells that line the lining of your GI tract, so your gastrointestinal tract, all the way from the esophagus, all the way down to the rectum. And while its main role is to control digestion, it's involved in a lot of other things too. A couple manifestations of this are the vagus nerve and your nervous system. So this is a picture of your vagus nerve here, and it is, it's a cranial nerve, so it's the biggest nerve in your body, and it connects your brain to your gut. It's the 10th cranial nerve, and it basically controls the parasympathetic nervous system. So you can see it's coming from the back of your, all the way up there at the spine, the back of your head there, and it's coming down and it branches out. It goes into your heart, it goes into your lungs, it goes into the small intestine, but then you can see at the very bottom there, that right here, that most of it is actually, this is your large and small intestine here. So that's where most of it is, which means 90% of the communication that's happening in your body via this vagus nerve is actually happening from your gut and going up. It's happening from your intestines and going up. And only 10% of the communication is actually coming from your brain down to your digestion. This is how powerful gut health is. This is how powerful digestion is. 90% of the communication that goes to your brain. What's also super interesting about the enteric nervous system, so the nervous system that is found in our gut, is that it contains more than 5 times the number of neurons, so brain cells, than the human brain, which makes sense when we now look at this vagus nerve connection and we see that 90% of the communication is happening from the gut and going up towards the brain. Number 2 is neurotransmitters, and this is where your mental health comes into the picture. So neurotransmitters are these tiny chemicals released by the body that play a massive role in controlling your mood, along with many other functions of the body. And what's interesting is that a lot of these neurotransmitters are produced in the gut. So serotonin, for example, 90% of your serotonin, which is your happy neurotransmitter, is found in the gut. This also controls mood and sleep. It controls perception. It controls hunger, appetite. Serotonin does so many things for us. And GABA as well is produced in the gut. GABA is the anti-anxiety neurotransmitter. It controls fear and worry and anxiety, and if you produce enough GABA, it's virtually impossible to feel anxious, which is why certain types of medication like a benzo or something is so powerful in the treatment of anxiety because it's increasing GABA levels enough that you virtually don't feel anxious anymore. And then the third one that I wanted to bring to your attention was inflammation. Now, when you think of inflammation, what do you think of? You know, a swollen joint, like you sprained your ankle, or you had a slid on your bike and had a biking accident, and now you have cut and bruises and scrapes all over, and then it gets red and tender around the area, or it swells up, and that is inflammation. That is your body protecting itself, right? But then we also have something called silent inflammation, which is a low-grade chronic inflammation that a lot of people don't recognize the signs and symptoms for, and this is all happening from your digestion. Because your immune system and the gut-brain axis are so connected, your gut microbes play a massive role in modulating the immune system. And then when it's chronically activated and it's always on guard, we have these signs and symptoms of chronic inflammation, and this contributes to things like anxiety and depression, autoimmunity, Alzheimer's, just to name a few. There's also this inflammatory toxin that's produced in the gut, and it's called lipopolysaccharide, so LPS, and it's produced by certain strains of bacteria that cause inflammation, and this can actually pass from the gut to the blood, and it happens because of something called leaky gut, which we're going to talk about in a bit as well. But it's basically the lining of your small intestine is very, very, very thin, but it can span the entire size of a tennis court, which is quite large, but it's only one cell thick, and the cells are kind of like this. Like imagine these little tight junctions, but they're not sewn together. They're not stuck together. There is space because we need the proteins and the fats and the vitamins and minerals that you're eating to actually be able to go into your bloodstream. So that's where they go to wherever they need to go in the body. But when we have something called leaky gut, it's when these tight junctions there's lots of holes and gaps in the tight junctions, and things are starting to get into the bloodstream that shouldn't be there. The only thing that should be in the bloodstream is vitamins and minerals and amino acids, which are proteins in their simplest form, sugar, so glucose, which is a carb in its simplest form, or a fatty acid, which is a fat in its simplest form. Those are really the only things that should be hanging out in your blood in terms of what we're eating from food. And if there's anything else that gets in there, it produces this chronic silent inflammation. I'm just going to see if there's any. Just realized I can't see the chat from here. Okay, no questions yet. Perfect. So then let's quickly talk about preconception, so the gut fertility connection. I'm also happy to share these slides because I have linked some studies too, in case anyone's kind of interested in seeing that. Oops, sorry. So women with recurrent pregnancy loss, they have a higher prevalence of an undiagnosed gut condition. Most common, this is gut permeability, which is the leaky gut that I was just talking about, because this can cause increased inflammation in the body. The gut microbiome is also responsible for estrogen conversion and metabolism. This is very important. This happens, one, with the liver, which is responsible for getting estrogen out of the body, and your bowel movement. So having a bowel movement every 12 to 24 hours is critical to get that extra estrogen out of the body. When there is a breakdown in digestion somewhere with liver, or maybe with liver function or bowel movements, this impairs estrogen metabolism. And this can lead to hormonal imbalances. And then we can maybe start to see, well, not maybe, we will see, depending on how long this goes on for, estrogen-related reproductive conditions such as endometriosis, PCOS, infertility, and more. Women who have a diagnosed celiac disease, which is an autoimmune disease, have a 3.5 times higher risk of infertility. And gut health plays an essential role in immune function. because remember, 70% of our immune system is housed in our gut, and this is in turn going to regulate inflammation. So chronic inflammation may be involved in recurrent pregnancy loss, which will also decrease progesterone levels, which is the hormone that is necessary for proper implantation and fertilization. So as you can see, the gut plays a massive role in everything from fertility to the carrying the baby, and then as you'll see, to afterwards as well. So how gut health is impacting the baby. Babies born during vaginal birth tend to have a stronger immune system and a greater variety of microbes in the gut. Now, this isn't to say that if the baby is not born via vaginal birth, that this is going to cause a whole host of problems, because of course there are so many babies that are born via C-section, and it is never my intention or the intention of any health practitioner to ever make mom feel bad about that. There are things that can be done, especially if you are working with a midwife. They'll often kind of swab mom, and then they can swab the ears, the nose, and the mouth of the baby so that they're getting all those microbiomes. So the antibodies that are first passed from the mom to the baby through the placenta, this happens in the 3rd trimester, which is going to provide some protection to the baby when they're born. But these microbes, so these bacteria, are largely dependent on the bacteria that mom has, right? So it's very important that mom is supporting a healthy microbiome, and we're going to talk about exactly how to do this near the end here. And then during birth, again, if it's the vaginal birth, more bacteria is passed along to the baby as it exits the birth canal, which further builds the colony of bacteria in the gut that is going to contribute to baby's immunity as a baby and as they grow up as well. And eventually the babies will begin producing their own antibodies and their own immune system, but when they're exposed to bacteria and germs, right, that they just get every day from everyday life. But their immune system takes time to develop. So this passive immunity, which is what is acquired from mom, becomes critical in the first few months after birth. And this is traced back to what's going on with mom's gut, what's going on with the bacteria in mom's gut, what's happening with the lining of the small intestine, you know, what's happening with the stomach acid and the liver, and all of these things play such a huge role in mom's immune system, which will then impact baby's immune system as well. A little bit more on this, if you do plan to breastfeed, and again, of course, that's not possible for all moms, but if you do plan or are able to breastfeed, your gut health continues to be important postpartum as well. As breast milk, there is bacteria, there's microbiota in the breast milk that will again play a role in the development of the baby's immune system. But the composition of this microbiota is shaped prior to delivery, always, right? We're going back prior to delivery, and is again dependent on the gut microbiota during pregnancy. And if you are unable to breastfeed or don't plan on breastfeeding, you can also get baby probiotics, which is really, really helpful as well. So there's always workarounds for all this stuff. And the maternal gut microbiome plays a massive role in baby's neurological development, just as it will play a role in mom's mental health with the neurotransmitters, right? Serotonin and GABA, which are produced in the gut, along with several others as well, play a massive role in mood. And they're also going to play a role in baby's neurological development as well. So now that we've kind of talked about, okay, why is gut health so important for mom, for baby, for fertility? Now let's talk about what damages the gut. Sugar is a big one, which you can probably tell by the picture, but sugar triggers chronic low-grade inflammation. So that inflammation that I was talking about basically when inflammation levels increase, this produces high levels of cortisol. Cortisol is one of your stress hormones, which will contribute to psychological stress. So psychological stress, emotional triggers, that can trigger high cortisol levels in the body as well, including what you eat. So there's kind of stress from both ways happening here, you know, finances, relationships, everything, you know, what's been going on for about a year has been quite stressful for everybody. That can increase stress in the body and increase your stress hormones, and so can what you eat. Sugar is a really big one for this. Also, high sugar intake decreases the healthy bacteria because it actually feeds the not healthy bacteria, the inimeal bacteria. I always call them bad versus good, but I think I should call them healthy versus not ideal bacteria, because we don't want to completely eradicate this kind of bad bacteria from our body. It is important to have a balance. We just want to have more of the good bacteria. So the lactobacillus, the bifidobacteriums, if you've ever taken a probiotic, you might recognize those names from the back of the probiotic. Those are our good bacteria. Sugar feeds the bad stuff. Processed and refined foods, because they often are high in sugar as well. This can be very damaging to not only the gut lining, so the lining of the small intestine, but it also has an impact on stomach acid. Stomach acid plays many, many roles. It helps us digest our proteins and turn them into our amino acids. And then our amino acids go off and they build our neurotransmitters. They're the basis for our immune system. It's so important. So it's important to have enough stomach acid. So one, we're breaking down our food as much as possible so that it's going to where it needs to go. But also stomach acid is really important for killing off the bad bacteria or any of that from our food. And then not having that bacteria trace its way down to the large intestine, where it could then take up and populate. Stress is also a big one as well. Short-term stress, our body's built to handle it. That's okay. Long-term stress, not so much. Long-term stress will disrupt something called the HPA axis, which is our hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal axis. And basically, the hypothalamus, so the brain, will send a signal to the pituitary gland, which is a hormonal gland, to produce a hormone that then signals the adrenal glands, which are these tiny little walnut-shaped glands that sit on top of our kidneys. They're very small and they produce a lot of hormones for us. They produce all of our stress hormones. They produce some estrogen, some progesterone. Very, very important. And they're small. And so when they get overworked, because we're constantly activating what's called the HPA axis, our brain is constantly telling our pituitary gland to constantly tell our adrenal glands, hey, you know, we're stressed, so we need you to pump out cortisol. Cortisol is just going to be running high in the blood. And then this is going to, again, go and trigger inflammation as well. Also, alcohol. Alcohol plays a role, especially with liver function. And liver function is very important, not only because it supports, like I talked about, preconception and potential explanations for infertility, because of the role it plays with estrogen metabolism, but the liver also produces what's called bile, which is a very important digestive enzyme, and it helps us digest our fats, and it helps us digest many, many important vitamins and minerals that we need for every function of our body, including, again, to build neurotransmitters and to support our mental health. Medications, antibiotics, over-the-counter medications, not to say that these things are bad, you know, there's absolutely a time and place for them, but if you're ever taking an antibiotic, for example, it's really important to also supplement with a probiotic, because how antibiotics are working and a lot of over-the-counter medications are working is they're killing off a lot of the bacteria, the bad bacteria that we don't want, or whatever virus or whatever pathogen it is that they're working on, but they're also killing the good stuff. They don't differentiate between what's a good bacteria, what's a bad bacteria. They just go in and they kill all of them. right? So repopulating your gut with a probiotic supplementation, if you are on any antibiotics for whatever reason, or over-the-counter medication, is going to be really important so that we can maintain that balance between the good and bad bacteria. Environmental toxins, the liver is responsible for getting, it has over 500 jobs. And one of those jobs, very important, is to detox. It is your detox organ. It is getting everything out of the body that is not supposed to be there. So it is detoxing alcohol, it is detoxing medications, and it is detoxing any environmental toxins. So it's very important to support the liver, and I will talk about exactly how to do that. Household products as well, as these can have toxins in them. There's a really great website called the Environmental Working Group, the EWG, and they have an app as well. And you can scan the barcode of all your products and see where they score on this EWG scoring system in terms of safety, because again, if there's any chemicals in there, and for women, like think of how many things we're putting on our skin topically, our makeup, our face creams, our body lotions, whatever soap we're using, you know, all these things that can have all these synthetic fragrances and all these parabens and all these chemicals. What you put on your skin is just as important as what you ingest and what you eat, because it is the liver's job to detox all of this out of the body. And if the liver is too busy detoxing alcohol, medications, environmental toxins, household products, we really want to lessen the load that the liver has to do, because the liver is doing other stuff for us. It's producing bile, which is so important for digestion. It's supporting estrogen metabolism. It's getting that estrogen out of the body, which is then going to impact our progesterone levels. And progesterone is so important for conception, for the carrying the baby to full term, for the health of the baby. Poor food variety. So this is kind of just following, you know, the standard North American diet, which is really high in these processed foods, sugars, really, really high in carbs. That's not to say that carbs are bad. They're not, because a vegetable is a carb, right? But you want to eat whole food as much as possible. What does that mean? As close to its natural state as possible. So imagine if you had gone to pick something off a tree or take something out of the ground, or what would it look like in nature, and try and eat food as close to that as possible. Of course, that's not always going to be possible 100% of the time, but 70 to 80% of the time, can you eat food that is as close to its natural form as possible? And this is going to go a long, long, long way in supporting digestion, supporting gut health, and therefore supporting the health of the baby and supporting the immune system of the baby. Lack of physical activity, so a sedentary lifestyle, plays a big role as well. Physical activity is also just so great for stress reduction, and then stress will play a role in all of this as well. Stress will lower stomach acid, and then, which I actually think I said, it's all connected here. I could like kind of go around in circles talking about everything, because it's just all so connected. Nothing works independently in the body. The brain is not separate from the gut. You know, the gut is not separate from your muscles. Everything works together. Every single organ works together. Everything works synergistically in the body. Things are not separated. It just doesn't work like that. Smoking is also very damaging as well. And poor sleep hygiene. So how much sleep are you getting a night? And I know it might be difficult, especially depending where you are in the pregnancy as well. It might be difficult to sleep as sleep starts to get impacted there, as hormone levels start to change. But are you getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep, uninterrupted sleep a night? Are you falling asleep within half an hour of going to bed? Are you waking up and within half an hour, do you feel refreshed? Do you feel energized, or do you feel like your energy is lagging throughout the day? Are you waking up between 2 and 4 a.m.? These are all very important questions to consider in terms of the quality of your sleep. Is your room dark? Do you have blackout curtains or maybe an eye mask? If you live in a city where there's a lot of noise, or you have noisy neighbors or something, do you have a white noise machine? A fan works really well for this. Is your room a little bit cooler? than the rest of your house because your body temperature drops at night. So you don't want your bedroom to be too warm, or it might be difficult to sleep. Do you have a wind down routine for about an hour before bed? Are you putting your electronics away? There's so many questions when it comes to sleep. And I mean, just a quick Google search in terms of sleep hygiene will pull up so many different articles, but it all matters. It all plays a role. Yes, diet is important. And yes, supplementation can help support where there might be nutritional deficiencies or where diet might be lacking, but lifestyle is just as important. Stress management and sleep. Sleep is crucial. It's so important. And of course, when the baby comes, it's difficult to get it in those first, who knows, few months to longer, right? So getting as much sleep now as possible is really important as well. I'm just going to check the chat. Perfect. Okay. So now moving on to, okay, now that we know all this, how do we support gut health during pregnancy to have those ripple effects after pregnancy? Eating high fiber and eating fermented foods. So remember how I said that sugar is what feeds the bad bacteria, the bad guys? Well, fiber is what feeds the good guys. So bacteria is alive just like we are. In fact, we are more bacteria than we are human cells. And we're living, right? We're living and we're breathing. So just like any breathing, living thing, if you don't feed it, it's going to die, right? Which sounds like very dramatic, but it's true. If we are not feeding our probiotic bacteria what it needs to survive, it's going to die. And when it dies, the bad bacteria is going to take over and run rampant. So high fiber foods, eating at least 25 to 35 grams of fiber a day, very important to feed these gut bugs. And fermented foods. So fermentation is the process by which the foods are actually becoming probiotic foods themselves. So not only are you feeding them, but every single day you're eating something like sauerkraut or kimchi, tempeh, miso, yogurt. I prefer nut yogurts because dairy can be very inflammatory, but if you are eating a dairy yogurt, you can definitely have that a few times a week. A Greek yogurt is definitely better, something organic, grass-fed. Kefir, you can get coconut kefir, which is my favorite. You can get water kefirs, kombucha, although those are usually high in sugar and there is alcohol in that as well. But these are all examples of fermented foods. And if you're listening to this thinking, I can't eat any of those things, which I definitely have clients who are like, I'm not eating anything fermented because it tastes weird, that's fine. At that point, you definitely would want to bring in a probiotic supplement, which I'll talk about in a bit as well. Limit your consumption of sugar and refined carbohydrates as much as possible. I don't believe in cutting things out 100% of the time. I just don't think it's sustainable, unless, of course, there's celiac present or something like that, where it would be incredibly painful for you to have any type of gluten. Then yes, of course, if there is autoimmunity or a thyroid dysfunction, then you would definitely want to look at cutting out gluten 100% of the time. But for everybody else, I always live by this 70-30% rule. You might have heard of 80-20. I like to push it to about 70-30, but most of the time, can you be eating whole foods? Most of the time, can you be limiting your consumption of sugar and refined carbs? This is going to go such a long way in supporting your gut health. Both the integrity of the lining of the small intestine, and again, not feeding that bad bacteria what they need to thrive and survive, and instead feeding the good bacteria what they need. Practicing proper stress management. So this will look different for everyone. It can be things like deep breathing, getting out in nature, going out for a daily walk, even if it's just 10 to 20 minutes, is huge. It's so good for actually decreasing cortisol, your stress hormone in the body. Dancing, singing, meditation, exercise, but not overdoing it with exercise. Sometimes if cortisol is running really, really high, if cortisol is really high in the body and you are over exercising, so you're doing something really intense like a HIIT exercise or spin or something that's really, really, really getting your heart rate up, this could actually be creating more stress and actually increasing cortisol levels in the body. So matching your exercise with what's kind of going on. How much stress are you under? How much sleep did you have? How much water have you drank? What's your diet been like? And therapy, of course, is great for stress management if that's something that is available to you. But definitely having something that you're doing every single day for stress management. Digestive support teas and herbs. So this is one of my favorites. I love working with herbs. They're so powerful. And there's a few great ones. I mean, you might have probably heard of all the great benefits of peppermint and ginger, especially during pregnancy. These are the two most common teas used to support digestion, and they both have really powerful medicinal properties that both help improve digestion, but also to soothe the stomach. Ginger is especially great for calming nausea. So if you're experiencing morning sickness or nausea at any point in the day, brewing yourself a nice cup of fresh ginger tea. So actually getting the ginger root from the grocery store and cutting it up and putting it in some water, bringing it to a boil, covering it, let it simmer. So good. So good. Dandelion and milk thistle. This is these are my favorite. I work with these herbs almost every single day. I get a lot of my clients to work with these herbs as well. This is such a great combination for supporting proper digestion, gut health, and liver function. So remember I said, don't worry, I'm going to show you how to support your liver. Obviously, all these things that we're talking about, reducing the refined sugars and carbs, and stress management is going to be a really big one for liver function as well. But dandelion and milk thistle tea is so, so good to support liver function. Dandelion is great for strengthening the liver and stimulating the flow of bile from the liver, which is what we need to digest fats. It's also really going to help with any indigestion, constipation, and support that toxin removal from the liver. It's also a bitter herb. So something that in herbal medicine is referred to as a bitter because it helps to stimulate digestive juices. So it helps to stimulate kind of all the digestive juices from the organs, which is really great. And it also acts as a mild laxative and a stool softener. So if constipation is an issue, that's how this is going to come in and help relieve constipation. The bitter taste of the dandelion also comes from the presence of sulfur, which is very important for protein synthesis and liver detoxification, any enzyme activity. It's also amazing for the health of your hair, skin, and nails. And it's also going to help balance your gut flora. So balance your microbiome, which again is going to be passed to the baby, right? And it's going to not only support your immune system, but support the immune system with the baby as well, because it contains something called inulin, which acts as a prebiotic fiber. A prebiotic fiber just means that it's feeding the probiotic. The probiotic is the bacteria in our digestive tract, the bacteria that is producing neurotransmitters, the bacteria that's modulating our immune system. And the prebiotic is the food, the fiber that's going to feed it, which is present in dandelion. This is why I love herbs so much, because you're not just getting one thing. Like if you're taking a supplement, it's often synthetic, created in a lab, and it's just one. It's one vitamin or one mineral, and you kind of give it to your body, and your body's like, cool, what do I do with this, right? But when you're working with herbs, they are chock full of vitamins and minerals and proteins and prebiotic fibers and all these things, and they work synergistically, just like our body works synergistically as well. Also, together, milk thistle has very, very similar properties in terms of liver function as well and supporting the liver. They're also in turn going to help with hormones and balance hormones. Hormones change a lot during pregnancy, and supporting the liver is one of the best things you can do to support your hormones. Also, dandelion is really, really great for stimulating breast milk production and flow, as well as, of course, fenugreek and blessed thistle are really great for that as well. And then let's talk about supplementation, because everybody wants a pill for that, right? And that's just kind of how we're indoctrinated. In the West over here, it's like, oh, I have this ailment. What can I take for that? And I'm not even just talking about allopathic medicine, so conventional medicine. People do this with supplementation as well. And I don't blame anybody. You know, I did this as well before, even when I first started school, I was always asking my teachers, well, what's the supplement for that? What's the supplement for that? And then the more you kind of go through the program, and then now being out in practice, the more I learn, the less I rely on supplementation, because it can be a crutch. But there are specific things that are very important to supplement with if you're not getting enough of, especially to maintain a healthy pregnancy. And so most women, I would assume almost all, are taking a prenatal. And a prenatal is going to have some of the stuff that I'm talking about in it, and then it won't have others, which is great as well. Which you can supplement with additionally. So something like zinc will come in a prenatal. But it's a hugely overlooked mineral for all sorts of bodily functions, including digestive and gut health, and it's very important for hormonal health as well. But in terms of digestion and gut, since this is really what we're focusing on today, it's essential for maintaining the function of the gut barrier and ensuring that the intestinal wall, so that lining of your small intestine, which is massive and can stretch over a whole tennis court, but is very thin because it's only one cell wall thick, so it's very fragile. It's really important for ensuring that this intestinal wall is strong and non-porous, so non-leaking, basically. It's also required for the production of digestive enzymes, and research shows that low zinc levels can impair digestion and reduce enzyme production. It's also really important for the production of stomach acid as well. So digestive enzymes or digestive bitters are great. I love the digestive bitters by St. Francis. Of course, you know, before taking on any supplementation or herbs, do talk to your doctor and your primary healthcare provider. I do have several clients who work with midwives as well, and they've checked all of this with the midwives, and the midwives have said they're good to go. But of course, you still want to make sure that you are having this communication with your primary healthcare provider, right? And just making sure that this makes sense for your health plan and your pregnancy. So I really like to work with digestive bitters. Digestive enzymes are quite popular as well. They're not necessarily the first thing I would recommend. I would, like I said, do the bitters instead, but the bitters don't taste good. It's quite literally in the name. And so for a lot of people, they just can't take the bitters. And at that point, I would say, okay, let's get you on some digestive enzymes. And they're generally a good mix of pancreatic enzymes. So this is protease, lipase, amylase, also betaine hydrochloric acid, which is the acid of our stomach, ox bile, and then there's also often other enzymes as well, like bromelain, papain, and pepsin. These are the things you want to look for when you're looking for supplementation, when you're looking for a digestive enzyme, because all together, this is what's needed to break down food. And the better our digestion's working, and the better it's working at breaking down food into the simplest form, when that goes into the bloodstream, this is not stimulating the immune system, which is very important because we want to keep inflammation down. We want to keep inflammation down at all times, but we really want to keep it down during pregnancy, because in general, especially in the beginning of pregnancy, inflammation is going to be up anyway. Your body's doing a lot. Your body is glorious and doing so many things, and it is putting stress on the body, and that's okay, that's natural, but we want to do as much as we possibly can to support the body so that we are bringing stress down as much as possible. B vitamins are also something that in a good quality prenatal, there will have B vitamins in it as well. And your gut microbiota produce hundreds, so this is the gut bacteria, produce hundreds of these bioactive compounds, including B vitamins, that play an important role in supporting the health of the other good probiotic bacteria and suppressing the growth of the competitive, the bad ones, the competitive guys who are literally competing for the terrain. Think of your digestive system, and let's think of your large intestine, for example, as like a terrain, like a little kind of war zone is how I describe it. And you have the two armies, and you have the good guys and the bad guys, and they're competing for that land. They're competing for the kingdom. You're the kingdom, right? So we want to be supporting this good army as much as possible. The B vitamins also has several very important jobs as well, which include acting as nutrients for their host, so for the human, not only just nutrients for the bacteria, the good bacteria, but for the actual human as well. B vitamins are crucial in stress management amongst regulating stress hormones and bringing stress down in the body and regulating your nervous system, among many, 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 many other things. They act as cofactors for so many functions in the body. They regulate immune cell activity. And like I said, they're important for the survival and fitness of the healthy bacteria, the bacteria that we want to make strong, the bacteria that we want to see thrive. Another supplement I love is collagen. And this is one of the most abundant proteins in the human body, and it plays a critical role of maintaining the structural integrity of your gut lining, so that lining of the small intestine. It is chock full of all the amino acids, so all the proteins that we require to heal those tight junctions. Should there be any inflammation in the small intestine, should there be any space between those tight junctions, any leaky gut, collagen is going to be really, really, really great for this. You can easily buy these at your local health food store. You want to look for hydrolyzed collagen and something that's from grass-fed. This is going to be the most bioavailable and the easiest for you to digest. And you can do marine collagen. So collagen is obviously from an animal source, so grass-fed beef. You can get it from chicken as well. You can also get marine collagen, but it's kind of gross. And the taste is hard to mask. I get this question a lot because I do work with a lot of vegans and vegetarians who, of course, are not comfortable taking animal products, which is absolutely understandable and completely fine. Unfortunately, there is not a vegan substitute for collagen. You can also make bone broth. So you can make your own bone broth, and this will be really high in collagen as well because you're simmering all the collagen from the bones, which is how they get it. And it's super easy. You could Google a recipe, but you literally just throw frozen chicken or beef bones that you would get from a local butcher, and you would get something that is organic, antibiotic-free, hormone-free, grass-fed. And then you put a bunch of like celery, onion, carrot, salt, pepper, apple cider vinegar, whatever, cover it, and you put it in a crock pot, for example, and you just let it simmer or leave it on low for 12 to 24 hours. And it produces this really rich, nutritious broth that you can drink straight from a mug, which is so soothing and healing to your digestion and to your lining of the GI tract. But you can also use it in soups and stews and sauces and all these things. And then, of course, I've mentioned it a few times now, but probiotics. So supplementing with a probiotic, especially if you're like, I can't eat fermented food, I can't eat probiotic food, it's gross. This not only affects your digestive tract, but it can also it does influence a lot of what ends up happening with the baby's immune system as well, because what is starting with their immune system comes from mom, right? And that's all coming from the bacteria. That's all coming from mom's microbiota. So supporting a really healthy microbiome during pregnancy is going to be very important. And you can get the probiotics that are specially for pregnancy. And that's what I would definitely recommend. Basically, everything's linked to your gut, right? So this really, really should be a priority. And not all probiotics are created equally. It's something to keep in mind. They're shelf stable and ones that are kept in the fridge. Either one. I tend to think that the ones that are kept in the fridge are definitely going to be better and higher quality because it is a living bacteria, right? So otherwise you're paying for a dead bacteria, which is fine, and it'll still kind of do its job. They have a certain shelf life, but I like the ones that are in the fridge, and something that has a higher count, like 50 billion. But again, like I said, your local health food store will have probiotics for mom. And that brings me to the end of my little presentation, our little workshop. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them now. And of course, you can always email me. So my email is hello@taygendron, TAYGENDRON.com. Any questions like that, you can also email me there as well.
Thank you, Tay. That was so generous of you to share all of your information with us. I think that's going to be very helpful for people planning to become pregnant and new parents. That was amazing. So I also want to let people know, I think you're also on Instagram and Facebook, Tay.
Yes, I am. So my Instagram is @tay.gendron. So TAY.GENDRON. And then my Facebook, I think, is TAYY.GENDRON. For some reason, I had to add the extra Y.
That's great. So people can check out those resources for Tay. She has, I think you have quite the media presence, and you're always updating your information.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm very, very active if anyone has Instagram, and the most active on there. And then Facebook and my website as well, www.taygendron.com. I would say that's the thing that gets updated the last.
Great. So the other thing too is that we have a lot of people that watch the Facebooks after they've been posted. And so if people have a question, you can post it onto the Facebook page, and we'll contact Tay and hopefully get an answer for you.
Yeah, absolutely. My emails are always open.
Great. So I'm watching the chat. I don't see any specific questions. So before we go, I just wanted to let people know that through the Ottawa Birth and Wellness Center and Women's Mental Health collaboration, we also have other Facebook Lives. So if you go on the Ottawa Birth and Wellness Center's Facebook page, we have other Facebook Lives. Some of the topics are a perinatal mood and anxiety disorder overview and their treatments. We talk about community resources. We have one on birth trauma, and we also have one on pregnancy, birth, and postpartum in COVID, which is presented by 2 midwives. I also wanted people to know that we have 2 perinatal wellness groups. One is on Tuesday mornings, and the other is on Wednesday afternoon. And how these are formatted is we have a check-in where people check in about their week and their baby's week. And then we have a discussion based on either what's brought up in check-in or what people have brought to the group that they would like to discuss. And I'd also like to let you know that we will have a perinatal journaling as a wellness tool group starting up on March 30th. It's 1 hour long and it goes for 9 weeks. And if you're interested in any of these groups, you can email me, Nancy McLaren Kennedy @theroyal.com. And McLaren is McLaren. And I believe we can post this with this talk. We can maybe post some of the ways to reach Tay, and we can also post my email as well if you'd like to contact me for one of those groups. So I'm just going to check the chat one more time because we don't want to miss people if they have questions. And I don't see any questions now. So I'd like to thank you again, Tay. That was an amazing discussion. You covered a lot of information and gave people a lot of different ways to think about mental health and wellness.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I hope it was helpful. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask.
Great.